Hey everyone, I'm back for the last part of my Mercy painting. Thankfully, it's finally over. This final part, I will be painting in all of the legs, doing like some final tweaks, redoing the face completely because the face was absolute garbage. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm just painting in Mercy's leggings. Yeah, the face was terrible. Like the initial face I did was more of a sketch than anything. So I took a picture from a model and sort of used that as a guideline to create a face that makes a bit more sense. So here I am creating shading layers for the leggings, just to give them that 3D look and also add that seam down the side. I think I could have done better with the seams, but at this point I think that's more something for like future projects. Yeah, the seam just seems like a little too bright, like there should be. I think there's a better way of doing that than what I did. But here we go. So that's the legs. Oh, no, another layer of shading. I'm sorry. Yeah, I think I toned that down a bit. Yeah. What's next then? Oh, kneecaps. I'd spent a lot of time looking at Mercy's boots and working out, because the top of the kneecaps aren't black, they're like a dark purple colour, and then the kneecaps themselves are a dark like purpley blue. So that's what I did there, and then I created the shading for them, which I wanted them to have that like shine line across the middle where the light bounces off them. Here I am, just sort of tweaking things, adding shading. What's up next then? Oh, boots. Okay, good. So this is me using the pen tool to create the outline of the boots, just because it's an easier way to get a nice clean line, and as you'll see much later on in the video when I'm finalising it, it's much easier if I do it that way instead of like just painting inside the mask. So I think that's how I'll be doing it in future, and just like only using extra, you know how I have the mask on the whole colouring group? That wasn't helpful. That wasn't helpful when I got to the end. So I won't be doing that in future, I'll be doing it a little differently. Yeah, so I had to get the legs in two separate groups. So the layering order, I think, went back leg, back boot, front leg, front boot. Just to make sure everything was in the right order so it didn't like layer over each other weirdly. What's up next? Oh, I'm messing with layers. See, I need to find out what's wrong with the layer panel and why it won't appear. I assume it's something to do with the window capture for OBS, but it's difficult to tell. So I'm painting in the back arm here, which I should have done really at the same time as the front arm so I could make sure they matched properly. But instead I'm just doing it like this, and I'm making the fins, not the fins, the seams, the panels? Panels. Yeah, the panels in her sleeve the same way as I did before. Just shading around the edges of the fingers. And then, oh yeah, the front flap. I need to find out what they're called, because what are they called? If you know, please do leave a comment. Just drop one down below. The orange flaps at the front and back of Mercy. What is the actual name for them? Because honestly, I've given up. I think I called the layer names phalange. Because I just had to have something to call them. So that's what they got called. Oh yeah, just doing all the little silver detailing on the flaps, or phalanges. Oh yeah, and then the last part of the boots, which is that dark blue colour rather than the brown, which I thought was interesting. And then obviously this gets shaded in, and then I go through and do the little seams. Just like a little bit, just to make them so you can tell. And then the soles of the shoes come next. There we go. That nice sort of yellowy gold. I don't know if I got quite the right colour for that, but it looks good. So right, and this is like a master shading and light layer, just to create some coloured shading, just to add, I guess, an extra layer of dimension, because all of the individual parts are shaded. Oh yeah, and this layer was just to add some fun colour noise, because, you know, she's floating in space, so there's going to be interesting colours and hoodah, right? Right, so here is the picture of the model that I used, and firstly I traced around the edge of her face, to create like an initial face shape that I could work with. And yeah, originally I sketched out her features as well, but I decided against that in the end. You're about to watch me do all of that twice, yeah. Right, so here I am, just sort of looking at the model and which parts are visible from the angle that the model is. Just because it's difficult sometimes to rotate. Like, it's difficult enough to visualize a human head in your brain, because it's got so many complex shapes to it, and with like practice obviously people become able to do it, but that takes a lot of time. Yeah, so here I added a few different colours to the iris and then added a overall shade to it. So yeah, I used the model reference just to work out what would be visible when Mercy's head is rotated at that angle. And then I sort of, you can see like I added the eyeliner, the eyebrows are different, like it's not the same face, it's just the same position of the facial part. Okay. Yeah, I resized those eyelashes on the right, so it stood out too much. Yeah, and I removed the sort of backdrop I used for the eyebrows, but there's still like plenty of eyebrow there. Just I didn't want that like overly penciled in look. I created the teeth, and you might have noticed that I blurred the teeth slightly there, just so that they weren't quite that white on black contrast. The colour I used inside her mouth isn't quite black anyway, it's like a dark red, just because the black would be too hard. Adding different colours to her lips to give them some dimension, and then using different fluffy low opacity brushes just to create like some natural looking shading around Mercy's face. And then, you know, I didn't have to refine it too much because I knew how much I was going to be shrinking Mercy's face down. So, ooh, yeah, and now there's some playing because a layer mask has ended up somewhere that it shouldn't be, or something along those lines, so I have to like mask off different parts of the new face, and put the layers in the right place, things like that. So in a minute, Mercy's face will drop in the right place. It's quite helpful in a way that Mercy's character design is such that her face is the only part of her skin that's visible, unless you have like her witch skin on or something like that. So when you're painting it, you can just redo the whole face and then go back later. And yeah, what I didn't realise here was that piece of hair at the bottom is on the wrong layer, like so it's in front of the face, so that whole time the face was fine, it was just in the wrong place. Other than the mask, obviously. And tweaking, and yeah, now I make the hair, like, don't worry, it starts to look better quite quickly. Yeah, I make the hair just like a little bit more textury, because where I had it, it was very, what's the word for that? It was very, undefined, low, it had not much definition to it, and you see I added a hairband there as well. Just to like, just define where Mercy's hair ends. So that's most of the bulk of it. Now there's just playing with layers, getting Mercy on a new layer so that I could do some like global tweaks. Yeah, so here she is on her new layer, and as you can see I still kept the fins separate. Fins, again with my made up terminology, I kept the fins separate so that they could be a hard light layer because I really like the effect that gave. And now I'm trying to improve this space background because I still liked the idea of having Mercy floating in space, but I didn't like the space background that I'd made. And I did try a few different things, like this was going to be the rings of a planet, I was going to add like a big planet. I realised I didn't know how to do that very well. I think at some point I pasted in some Hubble photos, I don't know if I recorded that part. And then what I'm doing here is I was just going to create like a plain circle background for Mercy. Yeah, look, there you go, there's a space photo. This one didn't work at all, just poor choice of space photo. So here I did quite like the Mercy on the white circle with the black background, but then I started playing with it and I turned it into I guess a moon. Splash some watercolour splashies, cloud brushes. Here we go. Just changing the background so it's not solid black, adding couple of different layers of stars and then tweaking the stars layer so that it wouldn't be, you know, there's something about it initially that just looked a little weird, so I played with the opacity here and there using the layer mask. And then I added some colourful shading to the moon just to... Yeah, and that right there at the end was me taking a nice screenshot for the thumbnail of the video. So here we go, this is the close-up of Mercy's face. A bit more of Mercy. Ah, she looks great. If you enjoyed this video, please do like it, share it, comment on it, do whatever, like share the whole playlist if you can, because I really appreciate it, and any constructive criticism on the work, greatly appreciated. I really appreciate it all, okay? So, thank you very much.